Hey, welcome back to Shofar Mountain. Sister Kate here. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous day. If you can't see, all the ice and cold weather has gone and it's beautiful. It's like 65. I don't have to wear a sweatshirt. Father gave us a wonderful time. So my video today, it's going to ramble a little, so stick with me. But I have a book up at High Prairie Acres, something about Irish horror stories. And in it, they talk about a fellow named Gerald Griffin. And he apparently, before Bram Stoker ever wrote the novel Dracula, had written scary stories and sort of touched on the idea of a character like Dracula. And he actually met Bram Stoker, and I think they talked a bit. And then Bram Stoker, his whole name was Abraham, but he shortened it to Bram. He had a professor at school who also kind of did a Romanian, folklore, whatever, history class. And Bram Stoker, with the ideas of Gerald Griffin and this professor, put them together, and that's how the idea, the concept of Count Dracula and vampirism was started. And just so you know, vampirism, at least in the form that we know it, with a Count Dracula type person, was completely fictional. It is a completely made up character and lifestyle based on old Romanian stories about people being dug up for whatever reason, and their bodies being very pale, and their lips being red, and like their fingernails and their hair still grew, etc. And so there came this idea that became that book. Now, arguably, the Bible does sort of touch on the idea of vampirism in that it forbids the drinking of blood. And our analysis of that comes from when you spill blood on the ground, like if you're doing a sacrifice on your own land, you're to cover it. Thou shalt not drink blood. It's one of the things you have to abstain from when you go from Christian to an Israelite. And probably, more than likely, it was part of some pagan temple worship practices, and that's why the Hebrews or the Israelites were specifically told by the apostles, don't do that. And the Father says the life is in the blood, so don't partake of the blood. Now, were there actual vampires? Well, there were people who, there are folk tales about beautiful women who require virgins and their blood, and they have to drink it in order for her to stay beautiful, witches and things like that. But now we have sort of a modern day version of that. It was just in the news, probably on Drudge or Google, where no, it was a radio show, that's right. And a well-known Hollywood actor was on there talking about how he took his father to a medical clinic in South America, I think it was Panama, and it was a doctor who was an American doctor, but he is not allowed, by law in the United States to use fetal aborted tissue. But he talked about using the umbilical cord cells, i.e. the blood, stem cells, to treat older people. And so this actor's father was like 90 and was suffering from liver failure and things, and he took him to this clinic in Panama, and he was given injections of this umbilical cord stem cell, which would come from the umbilical cord, either the cells themselves, the flesh itself, or from the blood from it. And this older gentleman recovered. Like the stem cells tell cells to begin growing, just like they tell a baby, start growing. Well, when they're injected into adults, it tells the adults' old cells, which are starting to die, be renewed and start growing again. And I think it's the key to how these elitists are trying to prolong their lives. And I remember when I was a teenager in high school, reading that the Rolling Stones went to Sweden to get, some sort of blood transfusions or some sort of blood treatment. And look at them now. They're still, a band, and they're all in their 70s. They're grandpas and maybe even great-grandpas. And they're still around. So I think there's something to that. I know Dracula is a fictional character, and vampirism is a made-up kind of disease, and it's gotten huge play lately because of the movies that came out and all the books. But people are actually doing something similar, and it's kind of weird and it's kind of scary, and it also reminds me of people in the Bible, the angels who try to be like God, and that's why they are overthrown. That's why Satan is thrown out into the earth. He's trying to be like God, and that's the one thing. Yahweh is the I am. He is the one God. And so one of the things as a believer we're not supposed to do is try to be like him, just like the Adam and Eve in the garden, eating from the tree of knowledge, and then their minds being opened, and now they can tell good from evil. Yeah, I think there's something going on nowadays where people are trying. They're getting really close with cloning and using baby umbilical cells to renew old people. They are getting really close to trying to be immortal. They want to figure that out. And they've also, the last story I'll mention before I sign off is there was a guy in Russia at the end of last year who said he was going to get a brain transplant. And they made big news about that. And I don't know if it went through, but it was supposed to happen like right after the turn of 2017 to 2018. So, where is that now? Because that would be really strange. I mean, if you look up chicken heads being moved from body and whatever, I think someone's already experimented with that. Yeah. I don't know. Keep that faith like a child. All right. Bless you. Shalom.